If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages, create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You know where to find me, Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can either go to my website, emailrevealer.com. You can email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure to check out our Patreon. We had a miserable month this month on Patreon. And we're uploading almost every day, guys. And we really need that support. The bills are up, income's down. Okay, we're struggling like everybody else out there. Opperman Report Patreon. You get all the shows. Everybody complains about the commercials. 10 cents a day, and you can do away with all the commercials. Get a commercial free. Oh, the commercials. Oh, the commercials. Yeah, anyway. Then, of course, our archives are free at Spreaker.com. Go to Spreaker.com. It's a chat room. And you get an email notification when I put up new live content. I do a live show there exclusive to Spreaker, exclusive to the podcast, folks. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight is October 7th, 2022. Of course, I didn't have a show last week because of the hurricane. Oy. Okay. Now, I was in a hurricane once before in Puerto Rico. But that was different. Okay, I was down in Puerto Rico I had a girlfriend down in Puerto Rico. And she had a big stone, cement house, And she knew what she was doing. We had all the preparations. We weren't worried. And it wasn't all this stuff on the news. It was a different build-up to the hurricane. And then when it came, it was terrifying. At one point, we were actually in a closet in the center of the house, hugging each other, practically screaming and crying because we thought the roof was going to go flying off. But I got to tell you, man, this one here, for me, was worse. That one was, okay, the storm came, and the storm was scary, and then it was over, and then everything was back to normal. Now, the situation here in Florida, and the stuff you're seeing on TV down there in Naples and Fort Myers and Sandoval Island where the causeway was washed away, I've been to those places. I've been to those places many times. So, some of those islands, I don't think we'll ever be able to return to. They probably do the homes in there and the businesses. Some of these are really cool places. But I'm sure they're totaled. So you can't go back there. Now, and stuff like that, you can't really prevent. Well, with an aqua dam, we could have reduced a lot of damage to the state of Florida with aqua dams. Aquadam.net. And everyone should be getting on their phone. If you live in Florida, get on the phone with your congressman, your senators, and say, hey, man, how come you're not utilizing the Aquadam system more? I-75, which is not far from me, the highway, was underwater, which could have been prevented with a couple of Aquadam channels, dams on the side of the highway. Why not? They know these areas that flood every year. This isn't a surprise. What upsets me the most about all this, first of all, is the lack of prevention. Just with some basic tree trimming and tree maintenance and a plan of burying these power lines and these cable lines underground, a long-term plan to do this, and storm drains would prevent half of this craziness. What I see happening is when the hurricane's coming, they get emergency aid. A lot of money comes flowing in. And what they do is they bring in these cherry picker trucks, thousands of them. And those guys on those trucks, they're not getting regular pay, like $45 an hour. These guys are getting like $1,000, $1,500 a day, okay, to do this kind of work. They put them up in hotels. They feed them. Huge, huge, huge outlay of money that could be avoided with some basic maintenance and basic prevention. Some storm drains, some burying these power lines, and tree maintenance. Cut the branches down. You hear all these people down here saying, I've been calling Duke Energy for months, telling them to cut these branches down. They ignore me. They came out, they look at it and say, oh, no, it's fine. And then they leave, and then the power goes down. They know these branches are going to hit these power lines. This isn't science. This isn't, something complicated. So just by some basic maintenance and prevention, by the way, too, now my internet went out for about 5 days. My TV set, my cable TV went off for about 5 days. The actual cable box itself got shorted out by the power. The power's flickering on and off, power surges. And the phone went off, okay, for a couple of days. Now, when I talk to the guys who will work on the, and the cable company doesn't come to your people in my complex where I live here lost power for days. And there's some elevators, too, in some of the buildings, too, because they're 3-story buildings. And the elevators were shut down for days. So you could just imagine those people that had no power and stuff like that. And then driving around, some trees were down and stuff like that. But no flooding, major flooding where I am. But like I said, so much just could be prevented and avoided with some maintenance. It's not like they don't know this is going to happen. And it's not like they don't know that these storms are getting worse and worse every year. Now, the torture of this situation with this hurricane was the lead up to it. Because you're seeing all these, everybody's watching the models, and you got to prepare, you got to stock up in food, water, batteries, and stuff, and flashlights. Okay, and I'm pretty prepared anyway, for the most part. I'm not, concerned about that kind of stuff. But you can't get a straight answer out of anybody. Like they're saying, okay, you should put sandbags, and I'm right on a lagoon too. There's a lagoon right at my back door. And so I saw some maintenance guys, and I says, hey, look, man, I just moved here. Is this true? Should I be worried? Should I be getting sandbags? And like, oh, yeah, you got to get sandbags. Then I talked to a couple other guys, and they said, nah, don't worry about it. So, who knows? You don't know what's real and what's not real, what these people are telling you. And then you get down to the supermarket, the shelves are bare because everybody's panic buying things they don't need. So the run up to, and then also to another problem is you're watching the news, and they got a newscaster on. Okay, I'm looking out my window. There's a little bit of rain. There's some wind. Yeah, the trees are blowing. Okay, fine. But you see the newscaster 10 minutes from my house, and he can't stand up, and he's falling down. All this theatrics he's doing, to make it look like it's 10 times worse. So then you say, well, then everything must be BS. They must be, this whole thing's a big stunt. And then you see what happened down there a little further down south, where it's a tragedy, and people lost homes, and people are still without power. People are still without access to their homes, and just the streets are lined. People had to take all their furniture and throw it away. By the way, too, if you're in any kind of a used furniture business, man, there's a lot of good stuff right on the street. You could just drive around and pick it up and then restore it. Stuff that's not damaged that bad at all, and it's everywhere. You can make $1 million salvaging furniture and restoring it. Fill huge thrift stores with it. Just furniture. So there's all that. And now, it looks like, you don't see it on TV every minute. But the situation now is the people who live down south had to relocate up here to Airbnbs and motels and hotels and stuff like that, and would stay with relatives. So they're still up here panic buying, and the shelves are bare in the supermarkets. It's getting back to normal a bit now, but still, it's a nightmare down here. And the stress. And the stress of not having, it really affected me, okay? And I'm a guy who didn't have a smartphone until 3 years ago. I avoided that whole smartphone thing. I got one now, and I'm addicted to it just like everybody else is. But 3 days, or 5 days, ultimately, without cable TV and without internet and without being able to function, we rely on this stuff so much, and just the boredom of just having nothing to do. You really can't go anywhere either, because there's emergency vehicles and stuff going around. So it's really, really draining, and it's really, really difficult. And on top of that, I had a really big setback today. I'm not going to talk about it, but a big setback with the show and stuff like that. We really need to come up with advertisers for the AM/FM radio stations. Otherwise, I'm going to have to drop a huge station, and it's going to be a nightmare. And let me tell you something. Everyone says, "Hey, how do you get these guests?" It's because I'm on AM/FM radio. If you're just going to podcast, nobody gives a damn. Nobody's impressed with that whatsoever. So I really, if we're going to keep that things going here with any kind of gravitas, we got to get some sponsors for the radio station. Okay. Now, coming up after this tonight, I got 2 shows I'm really proud of that I know you're going to enjoy. Now, let's see here. First, I'm going to be playing Janet Phelan, who I've known for years and years and years. Like 10 years ago, we used to be on the same chat rooms and stuff like that and message boards. She doesn't remember me, and I can't pin down exactly which chat board it is, but I know exactly who this woman is. Just wrote a book. It's Trianda's publishing it. At the Breaking Point of History, How Decades of U.S. Duplicity Enabled the Pandemic. Now, she's going to be having a webinar tomorrow, Saturday, October 8th. Okay? And it's about how to research your judge. This is not related to this book here, about which we get into some good stuff with this book. She's coming back to just to talk about this topic, how to research your judge. It's a webinar about judicial misconduct. The only way to get on this webinar, and it's tomorrow, 3 p.m., October 8th, 3 p.m. Central Time, is you have to email her at Janet, Janet, _C _Phelan, PHELAN @yahoo.com. Now, one more time, that's Janet, JANET _C _Phelan, PHELAN, PHELAN @yahoo.com. And you email her, and she'll get you your little password and your code to get in there. It costs a couple of bucks. And one of the topics on this is stuff I've been telling you about for a long time. It was kind of funny because before the show we're talking about this. And she goes, yeah, it's about how they're bribing these judges. And I says, oh, yeah, they take out mortgages and then the lawyers pay off the mortgage payments. She goes, how did you know? I says, yeah, I've been talking about this for a long time. It's a sloppy way to launder money. It's the slop, and it leaves a paper trail. None of these guys could be drug smugglers. They would have all their assets seized. But I guess since they're lawyers and judges, and I know they're getting away with it, and no one's investigating this, and nobody gives a damn, and they're all in on it together, that they use the sloppiest method of money laundering that there could possibly be that leaves a paper trail, because you can find this information. So you can take this class and learn this from her. All right? Now, we discussed something else in this interview, and that is, because she was able to attend a biological warfare convention. Janet Phelan, reporter, was able to attend this convention of biological warfare. And I said to her, well, how'd you get in there? What kind of credentials do you need to get in there? And she goes, Ed, what I did was I created my own NGO, non-governmental organization. And then, you did some stuff here. You send a letter, a report here to there, Geneva, whatever. And I used to work for The Hague. I used to do jobs for The Hague. So I'd be perfect for this. I think I'm going to be setting up my own NGO as well, about human trafficking. Now, she sets up this, and she tells us on the show how to set up this NGO. We're going to have her come back. So it's worth the price of admission. It's a free show, but it's still worth the price of freedom. A freebie there. To listen to this show tonight, At the Breaking Point of History, How Decades of U.S. Duplicity Enabled a Pandemic. And it's all about a lot of stuff. MK Ultra's in there. We talk about Richard Lambert with anthrax. With a lot of my former guests. We even talk about Ron Kessler. By the way, there's one correction that I want to make, too, during the show. We were talking about this KGB agent that defected from Russia and came here and was mistreated by the CIA. And I said, oh, yeah, I spoke to that guy. It turns out I spoke to a different guy. So when you hear that portion of the show, I was in error with that. I made an error about that. I had spoken to a different KGB agent who was mistreated when he defected to the United States. And I didn't have him on the show. I'd say it honestly because the guy was just intimidating. It wouldn't be a pleasant interview for me. He wanted to do a lengthy pre-interview, and he wanted to do it on video chat, first. And I set it up, and I wanted to do the show with him, but then he was just too intense. A lot of people have almost turned down Hoffenberg. That I almost turned down Stephen Hoffenberg because he was too intense with me at the beginning. But then after he checked me out, he was much more respectful and friendly. And Roger Stone I've turned down. I think he's too intense. I don't think I'd get anywhere with him. And F. Lee Bailey, I could have had him on too. And I turned that down too because he was just too intense for me, too aggressive. And you kind of know when you've been questioning people and interrogating people for so many years, who are you going to be successful with and who's just going to run you over and pursue their own agenda. Like maybe I can get in one or two questions. But what happens is they see it teeing up that question, and then they duck out. So it's happened to me. It's just not. It's not what I want to do. It's not what I want to do. So that was a very enjoyable show. I really enjoyed my time with Janet Phelan. She's also into Lyme disease and stuff like that. Very excellent source there. And she talks too, okay, about how she's exiled. She wrote another book called Exiled because a member of her family was murdered and it was covered up. And I guess she felt it was a threat to her life and she had to leave the country. Now, and I get a little choked up at the end of the interview because she's not the first guest we had on the show that had to flee the country and had to give up their citizenship. She's not the first guest we've interviewed on this show because we talked about Reverend Pinckney. She knows Reverend Pinckney, too. Not the first time we've spoken to someone who has been thrown into prison or someone called them from prison. There are consequences for what I do. Okay, let's put that straight out there. There's consequences for what I'm doing. What I do in my life in real life and what I do on this radio show for this audience. Okay, and for whatever stupid reason I do it. Because I know I'm not appreciated whatsoever. I'll tell you that. I read some of these comments and these reviews of the show, and these little whining little bitches, okay, out there who hang on my every word. Hang on my every word. And I say, the show's horrible. The show sucks. And know every detail of my life. They can tell when a show's a repeat or when it's a new show. They know hang on every word. Do something with your life, okay? Go out and do something with your life. You don't want to be on your deathbed saying, hey, I was obsessed with Ed Opperman. No one's going to give a damn. Go do something for yourself. Make yourself proud that you can look in the mirror and be proud of yourself, okay? Because I can look in the mirror and be proud of myself. Now, there are consequences for what we do here, okay? And someone like Janet Phelan, who's setting up NGOs and stuff and really out there doing stuff in real life, there's consequences for this, okay? And there's a lot of people, it's all fun and games. All fun and games, man. No consequences whatsoever. And I wonder why that is. Okay? Why some people like Reverend Pinckney are getting thrown in prison and other people are just tweeters, tweeting away with no problems. Not a problem in the world. People throwing money at them. When we're going to be getting into that in a little while, too. Now, my next guest tonight after this is another very enjoyable interview. A fellow from New York, Philip Crawford Jr., is a former attorney, and he wrote a couple of books about the mafia and the gays. He's written a couple of them. And we get into the nightclub business. We talk about the nightclub business in Manhattan, stuff like that. People we both know what we're talking about, So very, very nice guy, very enjoyable interview. And if you like those New York gangster stories, that this is all good stuff there. He knows Jim Rothstein too, and he's talked to Jim Rothstein. He comes right out about the Stonewall too, the Stonewall riots, and about pedophilia and child prostitution that went on, and organized crime control of the nightclubs, the gay clubs, and even the Gay Pride Parade, which I was not aware of. But I did know. I told you the story a few weeks back. I think it was with the Sinatra show, where I told you about that time I was in Bravo Gianni's, and Sinatra was there, and that guy with Joey Heatherton was there, and the guy made all his money because he had that little ad in the back of Hustler magazine or Penthouse magazine, selling land in Canada, and he sent me this land to these suckers, masturbating because they really want to invest in land. Okay, these dirty bitches. And that guy was in the gay nightclub business, and he was saying to me, Eddie, they make money. These clubs make money. He was like excusing his behavior of being involved in the gay nightclub business, to me, and excusing himself by saying, they make money. These places make money, Eddie. He was trying to apologize to me and say it was his only motivation for being involved in all these gay clubs was his greed and his ability to make money. So that's coming up to the Mafia and the Gays. I know you're going to enjoy these two shows tonight, so keep your eye out for them. Okay, and I don't have my thing set up here correctly. I keep my this on silent. I got no light in this room. That's the problem. Okay, there we go. Now, once again, the seminar, the webinar tomorrow, Saturday the 8th, 3 o'clock. You have to email Janet_C_Phelan, PHELAN at yahoo.com to get your seat at the webinar. I 100%, she knows what she's doing, okay? She knows what she's doing. We know a lot of the same people. So, yes, I would endorse this webinar tomorrow. In fact, if I had the time, I'd do it myself. Tomorrow I'm taping with somebody about the DC sniper. And then I have this fellow running for Congress who wants to abolish the CIA coming up. Paul Baresi, the PI in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case. You know, I had him on here before. We got into a big fight. We got into a big beef behind the scenes. Wound up with a torn bicep. He's coming back. He wants to come back on the show. Yeah, and there's a great, if you go on Law and Justice website, there's a great interview with Paul Baresi, the Amber Heard private investigator. And the woman says, well, Paul, tell us about yourself. He goes, well, I'm not a murderer. I didn't kill Paul Lynde. Because he was friends with Paul Lynde. I had friends, I don't know, some kind of friendship he had with Mr. Paul Lynde, the Center Square in Hollywood Squares. And he discovered Paul Lynde's dead body. And I believe Paul Lynde's boyfriend, too, also took a dive out a window. And, of course, Paul Baresi, with those wild allegations of that transvestite, that tranny, or the trans cross-dresser woman who fell off her fire escape tragically during the situation there where Paul Baresi was working for, what's his name there, Eddie Murphy. So, thank God. I live on the first floor. Okay, don't ever forget that. You don't have to be afraid. Move to the first floor. You can deal with anybody. I ain't taking no dives out no windows, that's for sure. All right. Tipping point. Oh, let's find this. We are reaching a tipping point, my friends. I promise you, we are. And I see it with every bone in my body. Let me see. I wrote a post on the Twitter machine. And what I said was, I fear we're about to hit a tipping point. People's obsession with smartphones and internet reality is outweighing real life. And people have more faith in what they see or hear on a phone or YouTube than what they experience in reality. And this is a mass shared psychosis. A manipulation that will not end well. Now, what is what is a shared psychosis, first of all? Shared psychosis is we have two people who live together, they're in a relationship, and they have a psychosis where they have hallucinations, visions, voices, but they are so entwined with each other, and they're so wrapped up in each other's lives that they share the same psychosis. And what I'm seeing here, and one of the reasons I'm telling you that I'm seeing this is because I have contact with a lot of people, just to give you an idea, the station in Nevada, right? How it works with AM radio is they count how many people every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes is about 10, 20,000 people. So when you got times 4, like 80,000 people a night listen to that show in Nevada. And about the same here in Florida, about 80, 90,000 people. And you got California, you got Utah. So a lot of people listen to this show. And I know people, they're all obsessed with YouTube. Oh, you should have some more YouTube followers and stuff like that. Trust me, we have enough people listening to this show. Then we ain't got the podcast. It's like another 1.5 million people a month. It's an insane number of people listen to this show. And it's not always the same people, a lot of turnover. So I have contact with a lot of the people in the public. And so I see there's a lot of crazy people out there. There's a lot of really crazy people out there that just have lost touch with reality and will believe the most bizarre things. You have people right now. I have a guest coming up on the show who tells me, Ed, I'm hearing that the deep state is steering the hurricane toward Florida, and he believes this. And this is a legit guy with credentials. There are people who believe that Joe Biden is in Gitmo and he's been replaced by actors and Hillary's been arrested already and Trump's still president. And this isn't just a small number of people. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of people with wild, crazy ideas with no basis in reality. Now, this whole business, I just went through withdrawals from not having my smartphone and not having my internet. This is all a recent development in human culture. It's only been about 10 years we've had these iPhones. So we can only imagine how this is going to affect society going out the next 10, 20, 100 years. They are capturing data on us. And we had Patrick Berge on the show, if you want to listen to that Patrick Berge show. He was involved with the U.S. military, where they were just like the advertisers collect your data and they know what you want to buy. And the intelligence networks and the military, they're capturing your data too to decide whether or not you're gonna become a spy or a traitor to your country, or you're gonna quit early, you're gonna retire early. They're gathering up that data on you too as well. Okay, so all this is not for your benefit and my benefit. It's not for your comfort and your ease and your well-being and your entertainment. None of that. That's not the motivation behind any of that. Because if it was, we wouldn't be sitting on the phone with the cable company for 20 minutes just trying to find out, a little problem with your cable TV or pay a credit card bill. You have to sit there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. If this stuff was for our convenience, that wouldn't be the case. Okay. So all this business with this addiction to this phone and this information and how I see these wild YouTube channels. When I was a kid, just to say, well, I believe there may be UFOs. And people were kind of, big joke. Oh, maybe there's a Bigfoot. Ha, 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 But now we've reached a point where there's entire YouTube channels and podcasts about not just that there may be UFOs, but they got specific galaxies they come from, and there's this type, and reptiles and grays and this and that, and they're actually speaking to them, and they're getting information from them, and they're offering you advice that they get from people on spaceships and aliens, and they're half an alien, and they're from Mars, and they're half reptile, and there are millions of people that believe this. These channels and these people get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hits and get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars thrown to them. We've lost the basic rationality and sobriety that you can show someone something in real life, but if they see something different on a link that they can click on, an article, or they see a video that's different, they believe the video or the article over what they can see and hold in their hand. And that's a fact. I see it over and over again. I had a potential client come to me and say, hey, Ed, I have all this information. I think we can put together a great case. I need to talk to you. I need to show you what I got. I have all the facts. I have all the pieces of the puzzle all put together. And we're going to take down all the pedophile rings, the international pedophile rings and all that stuff. And what's the information? They're sending me an article, a Vanity Fair article. And I'm like, you out of your mind? What is this? And I'll be talking to people too, and I'll say, oh yeah, I'm working on this big story in the background. So-and-so, there's a sex tape, and so on, this is going on, that's going on. And with a matter of minutes, they start Googling, and they're finding little bits of information, and they think they're an expert on the case. When trust me, you don't even know the surface of what I'm talking about. There's a whole nother world of being involved in this stuff and working on this stuff and Googling, okay? You're going to be Googling stuff and reading articles when half of that stuff is all catch and kill or specific disinformation or craziness thrown in on top of real stories and real information to make you look crazy and to make the story and the facts look crazy. Now, that's what's going on. Then people, I'm reading these reviews, Ed doesn't have any top secret information, okay? And I don't. I'm not saying I'm a whistleblower and I have secret information. Most of the stuff I'm telling you about are guests I bring on the show. And they say it to you. When I tell you what I know about Hunter Biden laptop, it's because the people that were involved in the deal came on the show. Birkenfeld came on the show. John Kurokawa came on the show. You can listen to them. Berge was involved in it. He came on the show. You can listen to the words coming out of their own mouths. Samantha Spiegel, about the whole Keith Abel aspect of it, came on the show. You can listen to the words come out of their mouth. And Google who they are and see who they are. I'm not hiring actors to come on here and say something. So I'm not offering you any tops. Certain things I'm involved in that I can't talk about, but I don't. But it's the other way around. There's things I can't talk about that I don't tell you. Not things that I'm telling you that I can't tell you where I got the information from. That I have secret information that I'm spilling to you. It's the other way around. I'm so frustrated with all this. You have no idea. And I got to tell you something else, too. One of the most frustrating things with all this is I'll bring a guest on the show. And this is the first show they've ever done. I'll find someone from obscurity, bring them on the show, then they get a huge platform, right? And I'm really starting to have my suspicions about this whole thing. Now, one of these characters one time, and then we had the October 1st shooting in Las Vegas, and the guy started stalking my friend, who was the head of the Family Resource Center. My friend coordinated all the insurance companies and the lawsuits and FEMA and Red Cross behind the whole scenes, FBI, the whole thing. My friend was real high level there. Knew all the inside dirt. And one of my guests I had on the show finds out who they were and starts stalking my friend, demanding this and throwing these crazy conspiracy theories at them, these hysterical hysteria from miles away, doesn't understand the logistics, doesn't understand how things work. It's been years now. So all your talk about helicopters and Saudi Arabians and the levitating Four Seasons hotels, all this stuff. Has there been one lawsuit that mentions any of that stuff? One? Not one. None of that made it to court. If there was anything there, of course it would make it to court. Now, for me, one of the greatest deal breakers in all this is Agenda 21. And I played a whole bunch of repeats of me screaming about Agenda 21. Now, when I first, I had heard, I heard of Global 2000. Now, most people haven't heard of Global 2000, but back in the 70s and the 80s, there was a plan called Global 2000. And that was the Agenda 21 of today. That was going to be the end of the world. They were going to take over everything. And so I'm on Twitter. And a fellow who I once had some respect for, that I thought was doing real legit work, posts this video about Agenda 21. And I click on the thing, and all the scary music. Dun, 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 dun. They want to take over the water, the air. They're going to control all construction, all the policing. They're going to control all law enforcement. Agenda 21. And I listened to this thing too. I know none of that's in it because you know why? I read Agenda 21. Now, this is one of those shared psychosis. Because, and I've been through this 10,000 times. I've gone to Facebook pages devoted to Agenda 21, and I go there and I debate with them. I say, listen, none of the things you're talking about is in Agenda 21. Have you read it? And no one wants to admit that they didn't read it. All these people who tell you, quote unquote, read Agenda 21, it's all in there. All these people that tell you that never read it. Because if they had read it, they wouldn't be saying that. So anybody who believes these YouTube videos and believes Glenn Beck and these far-fetched claims of these things of policing and controlling the water is in Agenda 21, the cure to that is just read it, and you'll see that there's nothing in there that's scary. If you read it with scary music in the background even, there's nothing in there that's going to scare you. because it's a bunch of BS. It's non-binding. There's no consequences for not, and it's all about, oh, we should encourage clean water in rural areas. You know, no solutions, and then we should more studies and further studies on how to clean the water. Okay, there's nothing in there about laws or rules. There's no consequences. There's no binding. There's nothing. There's suggestions and give us more money for more studies. Is all it is. Okay. So I see this nonsense, and I say none of that stuff is in there, man. You could read it for yourself. And I've been through this a million times. First, I'll say, oh, they won't. I'll give this guy credit. He didn't claim to have read it. Okay. But they don't want to give up. It's this situation where something happens, and you have this theory, like October 1st shooting in Las Vegas, and you have this theory. Well, it was a helicopter. And as the layers of the onion start peeling away, and you see that none of that happened, well, somehow we have to make the facts, the true facts, fit this wild story we just told. We have to, even though we found out that we were wrong, now we have to make it fit. And you have to do backflips in order to make it fit. Same thing with Seth Rich. Okay, fine, you hear the story about Seth Rich. But then, you know, when you see that there's absolutely nothing there, and you find out who's behind the whole hoax, you know, well, no, now we have to make it fit. And this is over and over and over again. Because the fantasy story, the scary video, is we're invested in it. And we want to believe it. And if we're wrong, then somehow we've taken a loss, and the other side wins. Or something. I don't know what the fear is. Now, maybe I just have a different kind of training because I want to lead myself to the facts and the truth and see where they lead me. I don't have an agenda, not even an agenda 21. I don't have an agenda to prove and prove some theory I have. I don't have that. It's just not built into me. So the thing is, man, is why Agenda 21 with me is the deal breaker, okay, is because you can read it, okay? And most of the people, too, you know, I've had a few people say, no, yeah, you're right, there's nothing in there. But most people now, they want to make obscure little things in their fit. And with this last fellow, there was something about that we should have surveillance on the production of hazardous waste. Something like it was, you know, oh, that's the end of the world. They're trying to take over the world by surveilling hazardous waste. I should have freedom to produce all the hazardous waste I want and do whatever I want with it. That's liberty. Is that what we're saying here? You know? Because he pulls out some wacky pages here, like I'm supposed to be afraid of anything on these pages. So, you couldn't just read this and snap back into reality and say, you're right, there's nothing there. You know, there's nothing there. And this scary video lied to me. And Glenn Beck lied to me. And here I read this piece of paper and I can see the truth. I can see reality. But people, we've lost touch with reality. We have lost touch with reality. And even my withdrawal from the internet and my phone and my TV this past week, I'm telling you, man, and we're reaching a point where people are so hypnotized by these phones and these TVs and these videos and this Twitter and this TikTok now is even worse, that this is all not being put together, and this addiction that it's created in us is not for our benefit. It is for our doom, for our enslavement. And that's what we should be fearing. Not wacky theories and scary things and aliens talking to us, okay? Now, I start thinking back, and there was a little Twitter controversy going back a few months ago. And there's a lot of fringe characters who have attached themselves to the Jeffrey Epstein story, and basically and all these pedophilia, child molestation, all these kind of stories and tragedies, like Kira School for Boys in Ireland over there, and all these things. And I'm familiar with all this stuff. I've talked to the people firsthand that were there, you know. Been talking about this for years before anybody. And there's some people who are just they're just unwell, and they've concocted bizarre stories. that somehow they're involved. They know this, they know that. And they have I don't know what their problem is. They want the attention. They're getting funding. They're getting Twitter hits, writing silly books. And but deep, I know for a fact, because when I was talking about this 8 years ago, they were following me around then. They didn't say they were involved then, but now suddenly they're involved. I know this for a fact. And I've passed this information to several people, and they've looked into it and exposed people. I'm not here to expose people. I don't give a damn. Okay? So there's a lot of fringe characters out there. But then also, too, there are people that are legitimate survivors of all this, and now they've gotten some fame and notoriety behind it, and now they're like celebrities, right? So then they want to spout off their opinion on this and that, and they're an expert on this and that. Okay, fine. Well, I work on a lot of civil cases, where people were abused and harmed and sexual battery in their youth. And the trauma to their life is no less tragic. It's no less harmful. And they're surviving this and going to court is no less heroic than these famous people you're seeing on Twitter. But they want to go through life quietly. I got a great case right now, and the people don't want to go forward because they're afraid that their names will show up in the church bulletin, that they're going to be, people going to hear their name. But then you have these other people who want to pretend that they're a survivor of this type of abuse and trauma for notoriety. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know why that is. Okay, I can diagnose a shared psychosis. It's shared by psychosis. But this I cannot. This I'm unable to. So there was this Twitter controversy that went on with some of these people, these names, these folks. And I was contacted behind the scenes as Ed, we want to expose one of these plaintiffs in this case here. We want to expose them because we've uncovered. Right? And what'll happen is when you work a criminal defense or litigation, is every now and then, you'll have an attorney contact you. They want to hire you, and I can't. There's a conflict of interest. And guys are professionally saying, well, I can't. There's a conflict of interest. And hey, I'm sorry. Enough said. Gotcha. And that's if the guy's a professional and you could trust him, another PL comes and says, hey, Ed, I'm working on this thing. I need you. I can't. I can't get involved in it. I'm too busy. Okay. Oh, gotcha, Ed. Gotcha. So now he knows I'm working on the other side. But man, it's all, you can, if they're a professional, if they're a cool guy, self-respect, reputable, respected in their profession, I got no problem with that. You can talk off the record. No problem. I get contacted. Ed, we're going to expose one of the plaintiffs in this case. And I see this, and I says, well, how could this guy not know? How could this guy not know that I'm working for these plaintiffs? I work for the plaintiffs in these, not in that specific case, but in these cases. How can he not know? So I wrote out. I can't come right out and say, this is my case. That's my case. I can't say that. So I wrote out a really long response where I made it clear to him that I could not proceed and assist him in his endeavors there. And I worded it in such a way that I didn't come right out and say it, but there's no way you could read this and not understand what I'm trying to get at. Okay? And just went right over his head. And I'm sitting there saying, how could he not get this? And after this latest incident, it dawns on me. They don't get this because they've never talked to anybody involved. And then, and also too, when I talk to people involved in this stuff, they never heard of these people. What I'll say, hey, was there a fire on the island? Because so-and-so was saying this. Who? They never heard of these people. And if they can't get the gist of what I'm telling them, that I can't talk to them because I'm working on this, then they have never talked to anybody else working on it. Okay? But they got all the Twitter followers. They got podcasts. They got books. They got fun. Man, Patreon, 10,000 a month. You know? Now, how does that work? Because I'm talking to someone today, man, who had to flee the country. Because there are consequences for really telling the truth and really being involved and really doing this stuff. Not just making up stories. Okay? And not creating a situation where you totally throw out all your credibility by talking about something as stupid as Agenda 21. That now I have to have an association with that. It's a damn shame that this Friday night report has just turned into this angry, disgust for the swamp I'm sitting in. It's really, there's such a pollution of all these topics and this information that it's hopeless. There's a ton of white noise out there, all these podcasts talking about stuff that they heard on my show 10 years ago. You know? And I don't know, guys, man. I really fear for society that this is not going to get better. This is not something that's getting better. Because, you know, every day I see crazier and crazier comments, you know, crazier and crazier emails, just bizarre. You know, you can't even imagine. The average person can't imagine, unless you're receiving the volume of messages from people, you know, you just can't imagine. So I don't know what the solution is, man. I really don't know what the solution is. I think people, and then again too, I can't say, hey, people need to just sober up and you know, hunker down and double down your skepticism. Because I know there's a lot of Russian money floating around. There's a lot of money floating around. You know, so many people just making money hand over foot. You know, it just pours into their lap. You know, and they've all got some kind of the same. You know, one of the things going around right now, keep your eye on this, is the oil industry using the same Johnny Depp internet propaganda bot, TikTok bot technique. The oil industry is not now using it against electric vehicles, where people are posting TikToks. Oh, look at this electric vehicle. It ran out. It has to be towed. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, look at all this stuff, you know, that people shill for free for the oil industry. It can't be more against your own self-interest, but ha, ha, ha. Oh, the electric cars will never work because you want to keep getting ripped off by the oil industry, you know? But the brainwashing and the mind control is just so deep, man. I got to take my hat off to them. So I can't tell these guys, hey, man, you know, pull your head out of your ass and just sober up. Because there's money floating in too, you know? Flowing in all this. And they have this down to a science, and they build up their Instagram and their Twitters, man. They're all using like the same. I can see a pattern too of how they're using the same techniques and companies to do this. 'Cause I can tell the spam I get. I can see it. And that's just how it's done. I've talked about it on here before. Anyway, we're out of time. I have no solution for you tonight. Okay? I have no solution for you tonight other than to say I'm very, very disturbed. I'm very, very worried about the future of our society. Okay? This whole thing, man, is not for our benefit. I can tell you that for a fact. I can also tell you for a fact, man, that if you're going to be a guard, if you're going to put a microphone in front of your face, what you should be saying, you should know what you're talking about, and you should take the time to do some, not just watch a freaking video, but actually read the document that the video is about. Okay? And then just stop right there. You don't have to make it fit the video. Okay? Because Glenn Beck came up with some spooky stuff. Glenn Beck is crazy, by the way. I don't even know some. Okay, yeah, I don't know if you guys know the story about the stories about Glenn Beck and his crying and the fits and wearing the 3 sweaters and all this kind of stuff. Glenn Beck is not a normal guy. But I'm going to take his advice on anything. He used to be a sportscaster. Anyway, let's get going here. Okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. Done for the night. I'm going to wake up another Saturday morning with no voice for nothing.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents, they handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.